to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles, and joining me today is our EBC Thailand Bureau's Esther Odanga. Hello, Esther.
Hi, I'm Esther Odanga from EBC Thailand Bureau, giving you the latest news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines.
May bagong monster na naman.
The Philippines confirmed its first case of a British-identified coronavirus mutation that appears to be more infectious as authorities scramble to secure vaccine supplies.
Rescuers have retrieved more debris from the Indonesia plane crash, including large fuselage and a wheel, as they continue to hunt for the cockpit voice recorder, the second black box that could supply key clues as to why Sriwijaya Air Boeing 737 plummeted shortly after takeoff.
Indonesian rescuers dug through mud as they scrambled to find survivors from weekend landslides caused by torrential rains, as the death toll rose to 21 and 19 others are still listed as missing. Vaccine
Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. explained the national government's 3-year vaccination program.
The Philippines confirmed its first case of a British-identified coronavirus mutation that appears to be more infectious as authorities scramble to secure vaccine supplies. Here's President Duterte.
May bagong monster na naman. And I pray to God really na sana na hindi ito more dangerous, more toxic than the original COVID. Hanapin yung mga tao, tapos i-examine sila for their own good. Na sabihin, Adre, ka na nakausap mo yung na babae na may bagong strain, pati yung lalaki. Magpa-examine ka lang, baka nahawa ka. So, yun ang gagawin nila ni Dr. Duque.
Since taking hold in Britain, the fast-spreading new variant has been detected in dozens of countries and territories globally. President Duterte's government had hoped to keep the mutation out by shutting its borders to foreigners arriving from more than 30 nations. Filipinos returning home from countries on the list are allowed in, but must undergo 14 days quarantine, even if they test negative for COVID-19. A Filipino businessman who flew to the United Arab Emirates, which is not on the list, on December 27 and returned to Manila on January 7, tested positive for the strain, according to the health department. He is in a quarantine facility as authorities track down other passengers on Emirates flight EK332. Known contacts of the patient, including his travel partner, who tested negative, are in strict quarantine, according to the department. The Philippines has recorded nearly 500,000 coronavirus infections, and officials fear a surge in cases following family reunions over the holidays and a massive religious gathering of the last weekend. It announced plans this weekend to begin vaccinating frontline workers next month, most likely with the jab developed by China's Sinovac, despite misgivings among many Filipinos about its efficacy. The government hopes to secure 148 million doses from 7 companies this year, enough for around 70% of its population. The bulk of them are expected to arrive in the second half.
Vaccine expert panel Dr. Nina Gloriani data from the World Health Organization, or WHO, says the COVID-19 vaccines will still be effective for new variants of the disease. Watch this.
So, sa variant ay hindi naaapektuhan ang antibodies, yung kanilang neutralizing activity. Yung pong current na ngayon, kagagaling ko lang sa isang meeting kagabi with WHO, kung saan tinalakay lahat ng tungkol sa yung bagong variant ng ito nga. At hindi lang to isang variant, no? Meron di ba sa UK, meron sa South Africa, marami po sila, pero sa ngayon, hindi sila naapektuhan. Yung po ang datos na pinakita sa amin. So yung mga bakuna na ito ay hindi ina-expect na magiging effective pa rin sila. But of course, meron tayong monitoring.
Rescuers have retrieved more debris from the Indonesian plane crash, including large fuselage and a wheel, as they continue to hunt for the cockpit voice recorder, or the CVR, the second black box that could supply key clues as to why the Sriwijaya Air Boeing 737 plummeted shortly after takeoff.
Paket yang kita terima siang ini kami akan serahkan kepada tim KNKT dan tim DBI untuk memeriksa material yang akan diserahkan. Harapan kita adalah isi air juga kita bisa mendapatkan. Namun demikian tidak konsentrasi kepada satu itu. Itu dilakukan secara simultan karena pencarian terhadap korban itu juga kita fokuskan ke situ. Selain puing-puing yang masih bisa kita angkat. Jadi lapangan para penyelam-penyelam dalam kondisi cuaca yang kurang begitu bersahabat, namun demikian masih mampu untuk bisa mendapatkan objek-objek pencarian. Jadi sekali lagi terima kasih atas penyerahan ini. Selanjutnya nanti akan ditindaklanjuti oleh KNKT. Demikian.
A deadly plane crash off Jakarta is a blow to Indonesia's progress in improving a dreadful air safety record that once saw its carriers banned from European and U.S. airspace. According to analysts, the vast archipelago is one of the world's fastest growing aviation markets, but has long been notorious for a poor safety culture, ill-maintained runways, remote airstrips, and a lack of trained pilots. Accidents increased as demand for air travel exploded among the growing middle class. But in recent years, there had been no signs of improvement. After determined efforts to overhaul the sector, tragedy slowed. Before the weekend, there had not been a major commercial crash where the airline appeared mainly at fault for over 5 years. But on Saturday, the Sriwijaya Air Boeing SAP passenger jet carrying 62 people plunged into the sea just minutes after takeoff from the capital Jakarta, and it's not yet clear what caused the crash. Divers have salvaged one of the crucial black boxes, which contains flight data, but are still hunting for the cockpit voice recorder, and data has yet to be analyzed. However, analysts say bad weather, pilot error, poor maintenance, or mechanical failure could be among the factors in the crash of the 26-year-old Boeing 737-500.
Indonesian President Joko Widodo receives the country's first COVID-19 jab, saying the mass vaccination will be carried out in all provinces, districts, and cities. Watch this.
Setelah kita melakukan vaksinasi perdana ini, nanti akan terus dilanjutkan vaksinasi di seluruh provinsi, kabupaten, dan kota di seluruh tanah air. Vaksinasi perdana ini dilakukan setelah kita mendapatkan izin penggunaan darurat, emergency use authorization dari BPOM, dan juga telah keluarnya fatwa halal dari Majelis Ulama Indonesia. Kami mengucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya corona ini dan memberikan perlindungan kesehatan kepada kita dan keselamatan, keamanan bagi kita semuanya, masyarakat Indonesia, dan membantu percepatan proses pemulihan ekonomi.
In a procedure broadcast live on television, the 59-year-old leader, better known as Jokowi, was inoculated at the State Palace in Jakarta, along with his health minister and several senior officials, as well as business and religious leaders. Indonesia's vaccination program is the first large-scale use outside of China of the Sinovac biotech vaccine. It poses massive challenges in a country whose thousands of islands stretch across an area about as wide as the continental United States and where transportation and infrastructure are limited in many places. In an AP report, Indonesia plans to vaccinate 2/3 of its population of about 270 million people, or just over 180 million people. That means it needs about 427 million shots, given the estimate that 15% may be wasted, according to the Health Minister Budi Gunadi Sadikin. This week, domestic regulators approved a COVID-19 vaccine produced by China's Sinovac, announcing its efficacy stood at a relatively low 65.3%, according to tests performed in Indonesia. The Muslim-majority nation's top religious body also approved the vaccine as halal, meaning permissible under Islam, in a move that could help convince wary citizens. Previous vaccination drives have met resistance among some segments in country's huge population, the world's fourth largest.
Indonesian rescuers dug through mud Wednesday as they scramble to find survivors from the weekend landslides caused by torrential rains, as the death toll rose to 21 and 19 others are still listed as missing. A landslide struck the village of Sumedang in West Java Saturday night, followed hours later by a second that engulfed rescuers digging for survivors. The death toll has nearly doubled from the 11 deaths reported back on Sunday. And 19 residents are still missing, including a half dozen children. But the chance of finding any of them alive was slim, according to Bandung Rescue Agency spokeswoman Seni Wolandari. Fatal landslides and flash floods are common across the Indonesian archipelago, where seasonal downpours are frequent and relentless. Back in September last year, at least 11 people were killed in landslides on Borneo Island, while a few months earlier, landslides in Sulawesi killed dozens. Indonesia's disaster agency estimates that 125 million Indonesians, nearly half of the country's population, live in areas at risk of landslides.
Police bust 100,000 fake medical gloves in Thailand. Joining us live is Cristel Di Marukot, also from EBC Thailand Bureau. Hi, Cristel.
Good afternoon, Esther, as well as to all our viewers. Here are the latest updates here in Thailand. After receiving a tip that a warehouse stored and repackaged used medical gloves, the Consumer Protection Police Division, in cooperation with the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, immediately raided a rented house in Pathum Thani and arrested the owner for allegedly repacking and reselling used medical gloves. Assistant National Police Chief Permpun Chidchob led officials to search the 800 square meter house late Wednesday afternoon and discovered fake nitrile rubber gloves inside. He said that ordinary white rubber gloves were cleaned and dyed blue to make them look like expensive nitrile rubber gloves. According to FDA Deputy Permanent Secretary Supatra Bunserm, 654 bags of used rubber gloves and over 30,000 empty boxes, as well as other repackaging equipments, were found inside the warehouse. Supatra also added that the estimated market value of the gloves is over 100 million baht. The owner is charged with violating the Medical Device Act for manufacturing medical equipment without a license and for making and selling unsafe medical equipment. According to her, Esther, the high demand for gloves brought on by the new wave of COVID-19 infections caused the resurface of illegal operations of reselling used medical gloves. Lastly, she advised buyers to verify the manufacturer before buying some gloves. And that's the latest news here in Thailand. Back to you, Esther.
Thank you, Christelle, for all your updates. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you, Esther. Reporting live from Bangkok, this is Christelle Di Marukot. We live in interesting times.
In other news, the Ministry of Transport has requested the Civil Aviation Authority of Vietnam to temporarily suspend the licensing of flights from countries and territories with COVID-19 variants. Firstly, all those from the UK and South Africa. In a recent dispatch, the ministry also requested that Vietnamese and foreign airlines strictly comply with pandemic prevention and control regulations before, during, and after each flight. Face masks are mandatory for drivers and customer service staff at ports, airports, and railway and bus stations and on public transport. The ministry, according to the government website, tasked the Vietnam Maritime Administration to coordinate with relevant localities to tightly monitor the activities of sailors and passengers at ports. All transport units will continue to ban unnecessary mass gatherings, while the organization of events that involve interaction with people from overseas must seek advice from competent medical agencies before proceeding. Earlier, Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc decided to temporarily suspend inbound flights from countries and territories, firstly from the UK and South Africa, that have reported the new variants. As of 6:10 p.m. on January 13, Vietnam confirms 1,521 infections, including 1,369 recovered cases, plus 35 deaths.
Meanwhile, in the Philippines, National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer and Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. reported on Wednesday, January 13, 2021, that the government is already preparing all the cold storage facilities in the country to preserve the validity of the COVID-19 vaccines. According to Secretary Galvez, there are 3 cold storage hubs in the country. One is in Metro Manila, which is the largest, and the other 2 are in Cebu and Davao, which will be used for storage of Moderna and Pfizer vaccines. Let's listen.
Ito pong major hubs na to, ang Manila, Visayas, yung sa Cebu, at saka Mindanao, ang meron pong cold storage warehouse na kayang-kayang mag-store na more or less 500,000 to 1 million na vaccine. Ang central hub po natin, itong Metro Manila, dahil po dito, million-million po na vaccine, pwede niya pong i-imbak. And then magkakaroon po tayo ng tinatawag na logistics transport through air or directly from the manufacturer to these major hubs. And then magkakaroon po tayo ng tinatawag na hub and spokes na strategy na from the center, pwede nating i-deploy sa mga tinatawag nating regional health units. At mayroon din po tayo doong capability, yung 2 to 8 capability, sanay na po ang DOH po dyan. Ang negative 20, pwede natin bigyan yung mga sinatawag na private service provider. At nakita po namin, babayaran lang po natin ng mga $1 or $2 per vaccine. Yun po ang nakita namin, babayaran na lang po natin sila para yung services po nila ay alam po nila yung pag-deliver po nito, katulad ng Swillig, Unilab, at yung mga service providers na nagbibigay ng cold chain logistics. So ganun po ang gagawin po natin na kayang-kaya po natin. Yung gagawin po natin is yung tinatawag na negative 70 at saka negative 20, i-deploy po natin po yan. dito po sa Manila at saka po dito sa Cebu at saka dito sa Davao. Ito po ang Moderna at saka yung Pfizer. Yung mga 2 to 8 na mga nabili po, yung Sinovac, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, at saka po yung Novavax, ito po ang pwede natin i-deploy sa mga power plants dahil hindi po ito nangangailangan ng news na cold chain. Yun po ang gagawin po natin. Ang strategy po na yan, hindi po natin inimbento. Yan po ay strategy po na ginawa po ng mga naunang nag-roll out, katulad ng US, UK, at dito rin po sa area ng Indonesia.
Cambodia today confirmed 13 new imported COVID cases, raising the total number of infections in the country to 411 so far, according to the Health Ministry in a statement. The new cases were detected on 8 Cambodian migrant workers. It said the results of their samples tests indicated that the 13 persons above were positive for the COVID-19. Currently, it said they are undergoing treatment at designated COVID-19 hospitals. Southeast Asian nation has registered a total of 411 confirmed cases to date, with 0 deaths and 377 recoveries.
Factual,
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
timely information, balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas! A 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia.
Sa mga taga-Iloilo at Antique.
Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to explain our health outdoor attack.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. Staying in the Philippines this Wednesday, January 13, 2021, in the Laging Handa public briefing, COVID-19 vaccine explained. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer and Vaccine Czar, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. explained. The national government's 3-year vaccination program, anchored in President Duterte's statement to provide all Filipinos with a safe, effective, and free vaccine against COVID-19. Let's watch this.
The 3-year Philippine National Vaccine Roadmap is guided the President Rodrigo Duterte declaration to provide the Filipino people with safe, effective, and free vaccines for all, particularly poor communities. All in all, the national government earmarked a total of 82.5 billion for the procurement of the vaccines, broken down as follows: 7 billion from foreign bilateral and multilateral loans, 2.5 billion from DOH and 10 billion for the continuing appropriation of Bayanihan 2. Meron po tayong 7 iba't ibang manufacturers na vaccine ang ating kinakausap. Ito po ay parte na tinatawag nating portfolio. Ang ibig po sabihin nito ay marami pong klaseng brand ng bakuna ang ating bibilhin o ang angkatin. Based on our current negotiation, successful po ang negotiation natin po sa lahat ng ito ng vaccine po nito. We will be able to purchase at least 148 million doses from 7 pharmaceutical companies. More than 100 million doses has been fully secured for production. Aside from this, we have bilateral negotiations with the Philippines stands to receive fully subsidized doses for 20% of our country's population, or roughly 10 million Filipinos, o ibig sabihin po nito nga 40 million doses, through the COVAX facility, which can be developed earlier by first quarter. For this year, this roadmap is eyeing to inoculate between 50 to 70 million Filipinos so that we can save more lives and recover our economy. I would like to highlight that the National Vaccination Program is not the sole responsibility of the government, but it must be a whole of nation. And go. To ensure efforts are synchronized and integrated, there must be leadership on government starting from President, the IATF, NTF, with the DOA playing crucial roles in exercising command and control, with the strong participation of supportive academe, and engaged government agencies and the private sector, and highly committed agencies and adequately informed communities and well-prepared health care system. It is only through this that we can implement a sustainable immunization program to recover the economy and restore the normalcy in the lives of the Filipino people by 2023 through our Bayanihan spirit. Sinasabi nga po ng ating mahal na presidente na wait until everyone is safe. He always says to us that walang maiiwan, walang iwanan.
Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP Governor Benjamin Diokno is looking at further boosting the central bank's delivery of its mandate once it opens a facility in Central Luzon. In his speech during the signing of the lease contract between the BSP and the Bases Conversion and Development Authority or BCDA, Diokno said the facility will be built on a 313,171 square meter land within the new Clark City National Government Administrative Center in Capas, Tarlac. The facility is convenient through the access road from the Subic-Clark-Tarlac Expressway or SCTEX, New Clark City. Under the contract, BSP will lease the space for 50 years with an option to extend it by 25 years. The facility will include a new plant complex for the production and distribution of currency and the printing of the national identification or ID cards and land title certificates, administrative offices and administration buildings, a new BSP museum, employees' wellness areas, and other support structures. Diokno said the signing of the lease contract allows central bank authorities to procure the architectural and engineering design and the eventual construction of the eco-friendly facilities. To date, the BSP's currency printing and minting facility is in the security plant complex along East Avenue in Quezon City.
The Security and Exchange Commission, or SEC, has cautioned the public about Masa Mart Business Center, or MMBC, which has been posing a multi-level marketing program to entice the public into its unauthorized investment schemes. In an advisory dated January 12, the Commission urged the public to avoid or stop engaging in the investment taking activities of Masa Mart and its related entities or representatives, as they have yet to file the requisite registration statement nor secure the approval of the corresponding permit to sell for such activities. Masa Mart was found to be offering a subscription and gains program under which a member may invest at least 1,250 pesos to 500 million pesos in exchange for returns of 2,746 to about 11.65 billion peso, depending on the lock-in period. This entails an interest of up to 30% per month or up to 2,561.81% per year. Masa Mart is registered with the Commission as a one-person corporation under the revised Corporation Code and with the Department of Trade and Industry. However, such registrations only grant the company juridical personality and does not authorize it to issue, sell, or offer for sale securities to public, nor engage in business activities requiring a secondary license from the SEC. Additionally, Masa Mart does not appear among the registered banks, exchanges, or companies engaged in digital assets with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Neither UMC nor XUM are also included among the list of the generally accepted virtual currencies posted on the World Coin Index and CoinMarketCap website.
Closed shops and mostly empty streets were found all over Kuala Lumpur as Malaysia started a strict partial lockdown to curb the spread of COVID-19, a new COVID-19 wave that officials said could overwhelm the country's healthcare system. A 2-week partial lockdown will be imposed in the worst-hit parts of the country from Wednesday, with all non-essential businesses to close. With COVID cases hovering around 2,000 to 3,000 a day, locals are urged to stay home until the 26th of January. However, shopping malls will still be operating to provide essential needs. Now, it joins other Asian nations from Japan to Australia, which kept their outbreaks under control in the early stages, forced to introduce new measures in recent days. Malaysia had relaxed restrictions as infections fell to almost zero last year, but cases have crept up again, hitting record highs in recent days. The Southeast Asian nation has reported more than 141,000 cases and 559 deaths, recording thousands of new infections every day.
Malaysia's Farmyanaga has signed an agreement with China's Sinovac to purchase ready-to-fill COVID-19 vaccines and later to manufacture the vaccine domestically. Farmyanaga said it will be subsequently enter into local manufacturing under license from Sinovac for its technology and know-how. Malaysia has been in talks to secure a total of 23.9 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines from Sinovac and another Chinese manufacturer, CanSino Biologics, and from Russia's Gamaleya Institute, the maker of the Sputnik V vaccine. The Southeast Asian nation has also produced coronavirus vaccines from US and German drug makers Pfizer and BioNTech, as well as British-Swedish pharmaceutical firm AstraZeneca.
Esther and I will be back right after this short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Waterways in the Bicol region and northern Samar province in eastern Visayas may overflow due to the rains from the tail end of a frontal system, raising the risk of flooding in these areas. TEF's rain can increase water in those waterways, so there is a possibility for these channels to overflow, according to the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAG-ASA hydrologist Eileen Abelardo in an interview today. She also said concerned communities must brace for floods from the overflow of these waterways and landslides caused by heavy rains. On Thursday, PAG-ASA said TEFs would bring cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms to areas in the Bicol region, Mimaropa, Western Visayas, Central Visayas, and the provinces of Northern Samar and Quezon. Some of these thunderstorms may bring moderate to heavy rainfall that may trigger either flash floods or landslides, according to the weather forecaster Ariel Rojas. He also said that the TEFs will likely affect these areas until Saturday.
The Metro Manila Skyway Stage 3 was closed to motorists starting Wednesday night for the conduct of a safety audit. We are temporarily closing the Skyway Stage 3 from 10 p.m. Wednesday, January 13, up to 5 a.m. of January 15 to check whether existing measures as well as features and Rodriguez, Quezon Avenue, and the NLEX interchange are expected to be computed and opened in 2021. The project was originally scheduled to be fully operational on January 14.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, said it will be negotiating with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to include Filipino household service workers, or HSWs, in its abolition of the kafala system. Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Sara Y. Ariola disclosed they were supposed to hold initial talks last month, but it had to be reset after the Saudi government imposed a lockdown due to the presence of more infection strain of COVID-19, B117. She said the KSA is scheduled to start abolishing its kafala system on March 14, 2021 for some sectors, excluding HSWs. The kafala, or sponsorship system, is a scheme practiced in many Middle East countries, where migrants are required to get the authorization of Saudi employers to be employed in the KSA.
We'll take a short break. ASEAN in Focus will be right back.
Ako po si Nonoy Zuniga. Abangan niyo po ako ngayong linggo dito po sa Himig ng Lahi, alas 8 ng gabi.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
Final volume 450. FI on to 100%. Standing by. Constructioning.
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. Vietnam's fragrant noodle soups and fresh spring rolls have won fans across the globe, but mounting food safety scandals on the country's streets are sparkling a rising tide of anxiety among millennials about what they eat. But across the country, from the lush countryside fields to tiny urban rooftop gardens, Vietnamese are doing what they can to ensure they eat safety. Ngo Xuan Cuyet, 26, used to sell pesticides for a living before switching to a safe farming. Let's watch this.
Đối với các sản phẩm an toàn bên mình thì cái đối tượng quán ăn vỉa hè này là bên mình chưa hướng tới, tại vì là họ cung cấp cái sản phẩm họ đặt bên mình là quá ít. Cái thứ hai là cái quãng đường mà từ bên mình mà ra đến chỗ họ là còn xa.
Mình chọn những quán như thế này để ăn ấy, thay vì các cái quán ở ngoài ven đường, bởi vì mình thấy ăn ở đây nó hợp vệ sinh hơn. Thứ hai nữa mình ngồi cũng thoải mái hơn, có thể nói chuyện với bạn bè nó cũng đỡ đông hơn so với ở ngoài đường.
With the help of Ricolto, an NGO that promotes safe food policies, he is trying to ensure his lettuce, spring onions and herbs grown with a strictly controlled dose of pesticides make it into as many bowls of bánh chả as possible. Heavy metals found in soil or water used for agriculture in Vietnam may be a significant contributor to the incidence of some forms of cancer, the World Bank says. While heavy pesticide use may also have long-term impacts. In southern provinces, between 38 and 70% of farmers use pesticides higher than the recommended level in 2014. The latest figures available according to the Ministry of Agriculture, the amount of pesticides used in Vietnam has remained relatively stable since then, it says. A ban on the import of herbicides containing glyphosate, classified as probably carcinogenic by the World Health Organization, or WHO, will come into force next year, but it is unclear how rigorously it will be enforced. Priced 10 to 20% higher than the standard vegetables Cuyet produce is on sale at two major supermarkets in Hanoi. A growing proportion of the country's urban consumers are willing to pay the extra according to the World Bank, while some are largely turning their backs on traditional street food stalls.
In sports, the Thailand Open has been declared safe to proceed after 3 coronavirus cases on the first 2 days, the Badminton World Federation said today. 1 Egyptian player was withdrawn and a German coach and French staff member are under hospital observation after testing positive at badminton's restart tournament. 3 other players also tested positive before doctors ruled they were historic infections, but Thai health officials have ruled the event can continue according to the BWF. The tournament has been deemed safe to continue by the Thai health authorities, the governing body said in a statement, adding that all players tested on Tuesday were negative. The Thailand Open is the first of 3 consecutive tournaments played in a biosecure bubble in Bangkok as badminton resumes after a coronavirus-ravaged 2020. The Thai badminton chief said limited numbers of cases had been expected and that organizers are following procedures laid down by Thailand's health ministry. Thank you, Esther, as usual, for joining me today and for helping me out here on ASEAN in Focus. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thanks, Alma. And that's the latest news around ASEAN. Thank you all for watching. Again, from ABC Thailand Bureau, this is Esther Odanga, and we live in interesting times.
I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.
Dahil sa COVID-19 na itala sa
ito ng pangamba
kontra COVID-19, may kit na
COVID-19.
COVID-19 is spreading all throughout the country.
Darating ang panahong ang langit ay kulim.